watching Classy Herbs. So today I'm going to be doing a video over Pantherophis guttatus, basically a corn snake, a southern rat snake more or less. And so I've got an entire rack plus more full of them, and just to try to more or less make things interesting, I'm going to show you guys a feeding just right off the start. So this is a standard corn snake. So if you were to find a corn snake down in Florida, this right here is more or less what it's going to look like. This is a pre-thought out mouse. I'm going to show you kind of how readily these animals feed, which is one of the reasons why they make such great pets. It really does not take a whole lot of encouragement to get them to eat. They will eat basically anything that smells like a rodent. So frozen thawed is not an issue for these guys. They will pretty much eat it right away. It's not a big deal to them. Such as ball pythons and other species, pythons and boas, sometimes can be a little bit more picky. Corn snakes tend to really not be picky in the slightest about what they're eating. So one of the reasons that it can make a great pet species. And so while you guys are watching this eat, I'm just going to kind of go into a little bit more detail about the corn snake itself, the species. So these guys are native to the southeast United States. Awesome animals. They're in the family of Colubridae. So they don't have the heat pits on the front of their face as other pythons and boas do. They do still constrict. They're non-venomous animals, and they will eat their prey whole, as you are seeing. So these guys do like it fairly warm, 85 to 90 degrees on their warm side, normal room temperature on the front. They like a good water dish that they can be able to get some water out of, and decent humidity. They don't have the humidity issues that ball pythons do as far as when it comes to shedding. You can keep them a little bit more dry, and they're still going to be able to shed without a whole lot of problems, more or less. And as you can see, one of the big things about them is I have this camera right in front of this animal, and it does not care at all. They're a lot more confident animals than a ball python, for example. Because if I was to be doing this with a ball python, it probably would have already spit it out, and it would be looking at me rather than focusing on eating the mouse that this animal has. So kind of a major difference is the confidence of corn snakes and why they kind of make really great pets. But like I said, this is a wild type corn snake. So if you were to find a corn snake, just out in the wild, out and about, this is the color and pattern that you're going to be most likely to find. Now, that's not guaranteed this is what you're going to find because there's so many variations of the corn snake, but this is 95% most likely going to be what you find. So I'm just going to pop this little girl back in here, and we're going to move on to some other stuff. So a basic mutation. So right here, and I'm going to do another feeding just because I think it's interesting and I think you guys like to watch. This right here, let me see, I'm even, it's okay to do it with your hands, it's not a big deal. But this right here is an albino, so probably the most commonly occurring mutation of any species out there. And I'm glad that this happened as it did, because a lot of the times colubrids, when they eat, this is very different from pythons. They will bite and they won't wrap up. I think colubrids, honestly, are a little bit more intelligent, a little smarter than pythons and boas in the fact, mostly of just, how they hunt and how they eat their prey. Most pythons and boas, even if you're giving them a frozen thawed eye, they will bite and they will wrap up. And wrapping up, they're thinking that they're killing the animal. They're thinking that they're constricting. They think that they're the one doing the job of the killing. And a lot of colubrids, especially corn snakes, you won't see that unless you really antagonize the animal by shaking a pre-killed prey item after they have bit it for the first time. But if they bite it and you just let go, most of the time they will just eat it. And they just kind of have a different strategy as far as how they go about eating. And this even continues on to even if they are eating live prey items. So like baby corn snakes, a lot of the times, if you give them a pinky mouse and they can simply overpower it just by eating. They're not going to wrap up. They don't have that desire or need to constrict, versus pythons and boas that almost always do before they eat. So if they can eat it without putting in the effort of constriction, then they will. So in my opinion, they're just a little bit more intelligent about how they go about doing that. But awesome animals. Like I said, this is an albino. So I'm going to put her back. I'm going to let her eat. We're going to go on to the next one. So this is a Tesseract corn snake. So, almost dropped the tub there. So what makes a Tessera, which I guess I should have gone over the albino, but more or less albino is fairly explanatory. You know, it's lacking the dark pigmentation. And this girl is a little bit grumpy. And I guess that's another thing I should talk about as far as colubrids go. Sometimes they can be a little easier to agitate, but once you kind of get them out and you start handling them, they calm down relatively quickly. But as you see, the Tesseract corn snake has these beautiful reds and these nice striped kind of dotted pattern down the backside. Beautiful animals, no doubt about that. Not going to go into a whole lot of detail unless you guys want me to in the future about the different morphs of corn snakes, but there's a whole lot of them out there. Probably my favorite is the scaleless corn snake. So I showed this one in the video yesterday. This is an adult scaleless. Show you some more scaleless stuff here. So this is another one here. Sometimes the scaleless corns have this kind of unique pattern to where the front part of the body tends to be fully scaleless, and then as the back continues, they tend to get scales, to where, as you can see on the tail of this animal, is actually fully scaled, which is extremely unique to me. That you know, it can be a gradual progression. This down here, this is an albino scaleless. So like the albino that I showed you before, you combine that with what I just showed you. This is an albino scaleless. So beautiful animal. You get both the characteristics of each of those mutations that I just showed you there. So awesome stuff. And there's so many other things I wish I could show you guys, but this video is already starting to get kind of long. This is a Palmetto Corn. So probably one of my favorites up there with the scaleless, and scaleless palmettos were first produced this year by Judd McClanahan, which are awesome animals to see. But these guys are kind of one of the only white corn snakes. They kind of have this speckled red, kind of gray pattern across their body. Beautiful animals. And so this is a female that we're raising up right here. She'll be ready to go here within a year or so. So awesome stuff. And then, I mean, really it only continues into, like, there's so many other things I wish I could show you guys. Like, this is a pied blood red. So the blood reds have this really deep red coloration, and the pied comes in on the sides. So you can see on the side of this animal right here, it has these big patches randomly occurring of white. And that is what makes it a piebald. So it's a little different than what you consider a piebald ball python that has the full-blown saddle patches of white, versus these guys kind of just have side patches. But nonetheless, beautiful animals, and I intend to do a lot more videos of these guys, so keep updated.